Hello everyone, Jason here. A while back, Jesse and I recorded a follow-up to our Oathbringer mega discussion video. We recorded it with the Blue Yeti microphone I got on my laptop because we weren't recording in the studio. And when I played it back, there was this weird buzzing. Now, I haven't had a Cosmere Corner discussion video for about a month or two, I'd say, maybe 3 months. And that's because I've been doing other stuff. I've had school going on. I spent a good while trying to fix this audio for this discussion because we talk about some really interesting things. We talk about the letters in Oathbringer. And Jesse's on his mission now, so we're not going to get any more discussions from him for a while. And I figured, hey, we talk about some really good stuff in this discussion, so it would be a shame to not just release it. That being said, I was not able to get rid of the buzzing. There is one version of this audio file I have that does not have the buzzing, but it removes kind of the baseline of our voices because I had to adjust some, like the noise gate. So you're going to get the version with the buzzing. Now, if you can't get through it, that's completely okay. I completely understand, and in the future, we're just going to use the studio and not the mobile recording on the laptop because we got some weird buzzing. I think it was like the AC. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. We talk about some really cool stuff, and it's kind of interesting that we're going to get a discussion with Uncle Hesse while he's not here. I'm going to have probably 1 or 2 more discussion videos this year. More on that later. But anyway, here is the Cosmere Corner episode on the Oathbringer letters. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, thanks. Last night we recorded our mega Oathbringer discussion. Extravaganza extraordinaire featuring 2 special guests and a whole lot of nerding.
An hour and 10 minutes of nerding.
Yeah, and we forgot about the letters. There was a lot we actually didn't talk about in that mega discussion, but that's okay. But our biggest admission, in my opinion, that we need to talk about is the letters, specifically the 3 from Oathbringer that Hoyd sent out, and we also think it would be a good idea to kind of recap the previous letters. I'm going to take a little bit of a backseat. I'm still going to contribute in this discussion, but I think we're going to let Uncle Hesse take the lead here because he's got a ton of stuff annotated. He's actually like drawn his own Cosmere timeline / star chart type of thing.
You got to keep track of all the planet names somehow, and when I'm mixing up Nalthus and Cell and all that,
yeah,
I knew that I needed to do something better. So I'm thinking we can start just by a brief recap of the first 2 letters. The first one is in The Way of Kings, I believe. The second one is in Words of Radiance, if I recall.
I think that's right.
And then we have an unprecedented 3 letters in Oathbringer.
Wow.
Yeah, so triple the amount in any other book, which is pretty amazing.
All right.
A brief recap on the first letter. The first letter is it's a plea for help. He even says in it, the author does, that...
And who is the author? Like, this is the letter that Hoyd sent? This is like him talking, not receiving communication?
Yeah, this is almost certainly the letter that Hoyd sent to the recipient, who we know is a dragon, and we're pretty sure is a character called Frost that we know about nothing about.
Is he in Dragonsteel? Like, if we had kept reading that, would we have run into him, do you think? Or is he not in that book, per se?
Apparently he is in Dragonsteel.
Okay.
Maybe not necessarily Dragonsteel Prime, but the Dragonsteel series.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, if we had kept reading Dragonsteel, would we have run into him?
So this is the point where everyone out there in internet land kind of falls out of their chair and says, wait, what? A dragon in a Sanderson book? Because that doesn't really happen much, which I think I appreciate. Feels overdone. But what he is saying is that Odium, or Raise is the name of the shard holder, the vessel, is out of control, is his thing. He's saying that Odium is not nearly as captive as you think, and he's not as much of a force as you think. Secret History spoilers. We've seen in Secret History that those shards were a little bit more just forces than anything else. You see, Fuzz can't do anything but preserve. You see, Ati, it references Ati, who was Ruin's holder, as a kind and generous man, and you saw what became of him. And then he says that Reyes, the holder of Odium, was among the most loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individuals I had ever met, and he holds the most frightening and terrible of all the shards. So it's a plea for help.
So what's kind of interesting to me about that line, like I highlighted that line and had a little annotation to the side. It was, so Race, on the other hand, was among the most loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individuals that Hoyd has ever met. Mm-hmm. But when we've actually encountered Odium, like when he has spoken to a character in the book, he seems anything but crafty, loathsome. He just does not seem like that. That's not the face he's putting forward, which is interesting.
It's almost like he's deceptive.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Who would have thought?
That's amazing. The villain is actually the villain and not the good guy.
You never know, but all I'm saying is that we can't take our face-to-face interactions with Odium at face value. I think I trust Hoyd in a pleading letter where he's being rather candid than Dalinar's interactions with him in a vision, or the Parshandi's interaction with him on the battlefield outside of Thaylen City.
Thaylen, yeah. I definitely agree with you. Hoyd is much more credible because we have seen Odium kill a lot of people, and we have seen Hoyd save a lot of people.
We have seen Hoyd kill 0 people.
Well, we have seen him beat the crap out of Kelsier.
Yeah, but he was already dead. He doesn't count.
Apparently that's true. The second letter is a response to the first. It's, like we said, definitely a dragon that's writing this. Probably a dragon named Frost that really we know nothing about. But we know that he is from way back pre-shattering.
He's old.
So he's on the immortal diet along with
a couple other people.
With Hoyd and probably Chris, judging by her,
Yeah, by her presence.
Yeah.
From White Sand all the way to, Bands of Mourning?
That actually is a good side note. More than Bands of Mourning, because she wrote the essays.
Yeah, she did. She wrote the Ars Arcanum, and it had even stuff about the Dromonad system from Sixth of Dusk, which is the fourth Mistborn.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely fourth Mistborn, and fourth Mistborn, when we're referencing that, is
space travel!
Space Mistborn.
Faster than light allomantic travel.
Which is pretty much the coolest thing you've ever heard of. Fantasy sci-fi. But, guys, I don't know if you understand this. It's like, she's like at least 6,000 years old.
At least.
By my rough guesstimation, I mean.
Like, what are you basing that off of?
So we think it's around 6,000 years from the Shattering in Dragonsteel to the Stormlight Archive. So that's around 6,000 years, and it's generally accepted that Dragonsteel, White Sand, and Elantris are all kind of grouped together as the first ones. So we don't really know how much distance is in between the Shattering and White Sand and Elantris.
Well, if that's the case, because Elantris, the 2 shards are already dead there, and if that's at the very beginning, then Odium got to work real fast, because before he killed Devotion his minion, he already killed Ambition.
No joke.
So, like, right out of the gate, did he kill Ambition, or what?
Yeah,
because that's what it looks like.
That's pretty much my impression, too, is he was sucker punching these guys before they could do anything. I don't know, maybe he had his own hatred going on, so he had good connection to the shard, better than Ambition or something.
Who knows?
I don't know. Shardic warfare is a whole topic we're not going to jump into.
Well, jumping into that whole topic, in the first letter, there was another thing I highlighted. I mean, we kind of moved on from the first letter.
Well, yeah, what do you have to say about it?
So, it's the line that says, "Know that Aona and Sky are both dead, and that which they held has been splintered." I feel like the order in which that was said implies that he killed the holder first and then splintered the shard afterward. and not splintered the shard to kill the holder.
That is correct.
So he could have taken up the shard because he'd already killed the holder.
You have to kill the holder before you can split up the power.
So why isn't he just grabbing the power? Is it because he wants to be pure odium? Like, he's worried about getting his intent mixed up?
That's the speculation, but I don't see a problem with odium also having dominion or odium having ambition.
Exactly. Like, ambition would be really good for what he wants to do right now.
Yeah, it might make him reckless.
Yeah.
But that we can only speculate on. But it is often speculated that he doesn't want to cloud up his intent. I don't know, post your thoughts on that in the comments if you have a better theory, because I would honestly love to hear it. Yeah, but the second letter, you want to jump into that?
Sure, let's go for it.
So the second letter is Frost writing back, and he says... It's kind of an interesting tone, because Frost and Hoid obviously have a long history. Hoid addresses Frost as old friend in the beginning of the first letter, and Frost does admit part way through, he's kind of grudgingly admits it, but he admits that he would still consider Hoid a friend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm just going to read an excerpt. I think that's the best way to get an idea of the tone. And I think Frost must have been who Hoid learned to roast from, because he roasts pretty hard. He roasts Hoid and then says, "Now look what you've made me say. You've always been able to bring out the most extreme in me, old friend. And I do still name you a friend for all that you weary me. Yes, I'm disappointed. Perpetually, as you put it. Is not the destruction we have wrought enough? The worlds you now tread bear the touch and design of Adonalsium. Our interference so far has brought nothing but pain. My path has been chosen very deliberately. Yes, I agree with everything you have said about Reyes, including the severe danger he presents. However, it seems to me that all things have been set up for a purpose, and if we, as infants, stumble through the workshop, we risk exacerbating, not preventing a problem." So that non-interference is apparently typical of Frost. There's very little information about Frost on the Coppermind, mostly out of respect for Brandon's wishes, because he wrote a little bit about this, but doesn't want us to talk about it because he doesn't think it's good enough, and a lot of it is still changing. But this is apparently typical for Frost, and that non-interference is really interesting to me, that the two can be looking at the same data and come to such different conclusions.
Do you think it's Frost's personal policy of non-intervention, or is it the 17th Shards? Or do you think he's not a member of the 17th Shard, or is it... I don't know.
Well, I definitely... Okay, so in the first letter, it talks about your friends of the 17th Shard are pursuing Hoid. I believe they're still lost following a false trail I left for them. They'll be happier that way. I doubt they have any inkling what to do with me should they actually catch me. If anything I have said makes a glimmer of sense to you, I trust that you'll call them off. Or maybe you could astound me and ask them to do something productive for once. Hoid is not a fan of the 17th Shard. But it definitely seems like Frost is enough in control of the 17th Shard, or at least an influence, that he could get them to stop chasing Hoid, maybe. That's what it seems like to me. So I posit that he is at least associated with. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Maybe more. I'm hesitant to say he's in charge of an organization like that, especially the way it's phrased, but I suppose it's possible.
I agree.
But I've kind of lost my place. What were we talking about?
Frost, 17th Shard, if non-intervention is his personal policy or if it's the policy of the whole group.
That's right.
I think it's the policy of the whole group. I think the next paragraph in the second letter is interesting, especially for the situation on Roshar. Race is captive. Whether this was, and then the next line down is, whether this was Tanavast's design or not, millennia have passed without race taking the life of another of the 16. And equilibrium has been reached, is the last phrase at the bottom. So do you think that race or odium is bound by an oath not to leave? Because that would be how Honor would go about doing that. He wouldn't, like, trap him with the remnants of his mind, his, like, preservation did. He would have bound him with an oath not to leave. And that's why the bondsmith has authority to say he can leave, to undo that oath, say it's fulfilled.
To talk about an oath. You want to talk about an oath. How about a binding oath with Honor that Honor makes with odium? And Honor says, if you make this oath, you cannot break it, because this is the power of Honor that is binding you. But if you are bound to this system, then you can kill me. That would be pretty honorable.
Noble sacrifice. Yeah. That could have been how it went down. We'll
I think
just have to see, won't we?
That's my newest theory on it. I don't know. It's so unclear what exactly happened.
Oaths can be messy, and I think that's how it would go down. It would have had to do with an oath.
Mm-hmm. And it reminds me a lot of preservation and ruin, where preservation had to essentially give himself up so that ruin could be contained. So I'm hesitant to jump into the Oathbringer letters at all. I think
you mean the whole purpose we're down here to talk about the Oathbringer?
Yeah, but just the talking about whether it's the 17th Shard has this policy of non-intervention or whether it's Frost. I believe it's the 17th Shard, and I think maybe, possibly, we might have evidence of that in the second Oathbringer letter, or the fourth letter overall. For ease of understanding, on the Coppermind, they're listed as the first letter, the second letter, and then the 3 Oathbringer letters. I like to think of them as just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe that affects our analysis of the data, but I don't see a way that it does.
No.
So if I reference the fourth letter, that's what I'm talking about, is the second Oathbringer letter. But the verdict in the second letter is that Raise is more a force than an individual, and so that concern is unwarranted that Hoyd raises. And basically, Frost says, would you please quit interfering and making this harder for everything to come together the way it should? Okay, so the argument is that if you stumble through the workshop, you risk making the problem worse. But what if it was planned that Wit stumbles through the workshop? I don't know. That's kind of the fate idea.
I don't think so. I don't think that would be the case.
It seems like Frost believes in fate, or planning so good that it's basically fate on Adonalsium's part. That's my belief of what he's saying, because otherwise how could he be a proponent of not interfering?
Nice. We'll see.
So
maybe he just has information we don't, which is most likely the case.
Yeah, he's definitely got information we don't. We just need to figure out what it is.
All right, shall we move on to letter 3 from Endowment?
Yeah, so the second letter ends with, the Cosmere itself may depend upon our restraint. The third letter, the first Oathbringer letter, is likely from Endowment. We're pretty certain, just judging by some of the references and the tone. A quick note is that none of these are for certain from anyone, but there are some that are essentially confirmed.
Especially the fourth letter overall, or the second Oathbringer. We're not sure who the author is.
At all.
See, I think... we'll get to that in a minute.
That one's confusing. But some of them we have at least a good idea who it's probably
Especially
from.
The last one.
The last one is, The first one is definitely from Hoyd. The last one is almost certainly from Sazed. And some of the others can swing a little bit, but we're pretty certain about them. So it starts, the The third letter starts by saying, Dearest Saphandrius, I received your communication, of course. I noticed its arrival immediately, just as I noticed your many intrusions into my land. You think yourself so clever, but my eyes are not those of some petty noble, to be clouded by a false nose and some dirt on the cheeks. You mustn't worry yourself about Rays. Is a pity about Aona and Skay, devotion and dominion, but they were foolish, violating our pact from the very beginning. Our pact really interested me as we hit on that, but I think it explains what that pact is later in this letter. Does. So that's my opinion on what the pact is that she referenced. Your skills are admirable, but you are merely a man. You had the chance to be more and refused it. No good can come of two shards settling in one location. This seems like a description of that pact. Mm-hmm. It was agreed that we would not interfere with one another, and it disappoints me that so few of the shards had kept to this original agreement. As for Uli Da, which we speculate is the holder of ambition, I don't remember whether that's confirmed, but...
It might be. I think that's what it was on the Coppermind.
Yeah. Former holder of ambition, now ambition is splintered.
She gone.
It was obvious from the outset that she was going to be a problem. Good riddance. Regardless, this is not your concern. You turned your back on divinity. If Rays becomes an issue, he will be dealt with. And so will you. So that is almost certainly from Endowment, especially hearing some of the things she references. I think that one's fascinating because it brings up the point that we had never seen before, that Hoid turned down divinity.
Mm-hmm.
So
he could have been a shard holder, I think.
That's what it says. And honestly, that idea that he has enough connection to have possibly been a shard holder, a vessel, that probably strengthens the theory that I've heard before, that Hoid is trying to get enough connection to reunite Adonalsium or something similar.
Little baby Adonalsium. Maybe out of little fractions.
Yeah. Or at least like a balanced force. So that strengthens that theory, I think. I don't know, a lot of the Oathbringer letters bring up loose ends, which is only natural.
I think it's on purpose, honestly.
So
Sanderson's like, the more I reveal, the more I have to show that you guys don't know, so you keep reading my books.
Yeah, basically. Or else you're over there like, oh, okay, I understand what's going on. And he's like, but I haven't told you about the first gem.
Oh, what's the first gem, dude? Anything else you want to say from the third letter?
I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, I think, sometimes. So, the first line gives me some questions. I received your communication. Of course, I noticed its arrival immediately, just as I noticed your many intrusions into my land. Which got me thinking, how exactly does one send a letter to a shard? Like, UPS just, CZ Planet, Skadriel, P.O. Box or whatever, and, like, how do you contact a shard on purpose? Because the only thing we've seen is shards contacting people. I mean, Waxilium with the earring, he was able to kind of contact CZ, but not really. That was only CZ being able to hear him. It wasn't him like, hey, you, get down here. Every time we've seen a shard interact with a person, they have been the one taken and invited to see the shard.
The shard has invited them.
Yes, it's not been the other way around. But here, Hoid is sending communications directly to the individuals somehow.
He actually has a hemalurgic construct that functions as a computer, and he's sending off emails to Edgley at 16thshard.com.
16thshard.com.
No. I really have no idea, but that is a fascinating idea.
And then
that's a big loose end that we just don't know how these letters are being sent or why they're sent as letters instead of conversations.
Yeah. And then we already talked about Hoid holding a shard. That was...
Yeah, that's the big one.
And then for me, the line before the last one, before "and so will you," if Reyes becomes an issue, he will be dealt with. So, who is going to deal with this? Like, who is so confident that they can take out Reyes and Odium that they haven't done it yet because they don't see it's an issue? Where's this confidence coming from, and who is the person that's going to take down the big bad wolf?
I would posit, there are a few ways to read that, but I would posit that it is Edgley, the holder of endowment, herself.
Mm-hmm.
She's over there saying, I mean, she is the one with the biggest foothold, other than the 3 native, I use that word hesitantly because Odium, but 3 native shards to Roshar. Mm-hmm. They've been there a while. 3 entrenched shards. She's now sending things like, or at least there is bleed from Warbreaker into Oathbringer pretty significantly.
I wish I had the Arcanum Unbounded with me here because of the star chart. How close is Nalthis to... Oh, is it not on there? It's not labeled, is
Nalthis is not on the map.
It's not on the map.
That star chart brings a lot more questions
than answers. Let me see if I can look this up. Anything else you want to talk about on the 3rd letter from Endowment?
I think the 3rd letter, well, there's stuff that we can talk about in the light of other letters, but I think that pretty much does it for me.
Okay.
The 4th letter is interesting because it starts with Saphandrius, bearer of the 1st gem, which is...
Topaz! Sorry.
Well, it might be Topaz. We know that Hoyd at one point called himself Topaz.
Yes.
That was very early in his history.
And when reading Dragonsteel, we had encountered the character Topaz, but that was not Hoyd. That was presumably Hoyd's master.
Yeah. I think we saw Hoyd as a boy in that one. But all of that...
Do you think he's... what's the...
Hey, there's the star chart. Good work.
What's the dude's name in Dragonsteel? Jarek? Yeah, it was Jarek. Do you think Jarek is Hoyd, or do you think that's someone else?
I think that's a Ratho, and especially because it's non-canonical, so we just can't even speculate.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Because what we have is little bits and pieces and references to the past. I don't feel like we could
so
do that. Oh, yay, we do have a location for Nalthis.
It's pretty close to Cell.
That's fascinating that they have it on the star chart, but not in the essays in Arcanum Unbounded.
Maybe Chris couldn't get into Nalthis.
That's what it sounds like, because Endowment does not sound all that friendly to visitors.
No, but neither does
yes, but she's
Davidin
from there,
Taldane.
so...
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, she knows about that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's kind of interesting to me? It seems like Roshar is kind of in the middle of all these. We've got Taldane. It's pretty close to Roshar. Scadrial, it's pretty close. Like, it's in the middle of all of these shards. I mean, worlds. Threnity's pretty far out there, which was where Ambition was at one point, which is pretty far away. That looks like
running away.
And then there's the Scar,
which we don't know anything about, except that it glows really brightly on Threnody. And apparently in other places, judging by its location, but...
And then First of Sun is pretty far. I wonder, like, we don't know why First of Sun is a shard world. We don't know what shard was there.
Well, we know there's investiture there. I'm not sure that we can even say it was a shard... Well,
shard world?
I don't know. That's a messy one, is basically what I'm going to say.
And
unidentified investiture.
Space travel from
a
Scadrial all the way over there. Alright. Anyway.
Yeah, it is interesting to see.
I'll have to put that star chart in the video at this point.
Absolutely. So, it is also in this letter that we learn of a new planet. And possibly... Okay, so this is Jesse's reading, but possibly 2 new planets.
All right, so you've delved into this one a lot more than I have, so go for it.
Because this is the confusing one. This is the one that we do not know who it's written by. Also, a quick note. These all seem to be responses to Hoyd. I mean, 2 of them are addressed directly to Saphandrius, which is a name of Hoyd. But we're not certain what they're responding to. I guess probably a letter that's very similar to the first letter, judging by their responses, but
yeah,
I don't know. So this, we don't know who it's written by, but the entire time as it talks, it says we and us instead of I. So it's the plural pronoun. I really had better just read it, because this one is so full of little details and things that would cause problems for my theories. Actually, do you want to read it, Jason?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Saphandrius, bearer of the first gem, you must know better than to approach us by relying upon presumptions of past relationships. You have spoken to one who cannot respond. We, instead, will take your communication to us. Though we know not how you located us upon this world, we are indeed intrigued, for we thought it well hidden, insignificant among our many realms. As the waves of the sea must continue to surge, so must our will continue resolute, alone. Did you expect anything else from us? We need not suffer the interference of another. Race is contained, and we care not for his prison. Indeed, we admire his initiative. Perhaps, if you had approached to correct one of us with your plea, it would have found a favorable audience. Though we stand in the sea, pleased with our domains, leave us alone. We also instruct that you should not return to Obrodai. We have claimed that world, and a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there. She is young yet, and as a precaution, she has been instilled with an intense and overpowering dislike of you. This is all we say at this time. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. Only in this will you earn our respect.
There's a lot going on in that letter.
Yes. There are multiple planets. They have multiple domains, is what it says. So this shard has spread himself across systems or worlds. Like
presumably shard. We don't know that Frost holds.
Yeah, I said shard, didn't I?
Well, but yeah, I'm saying that we don't necessarily know that Frost holds a shard. Frost is not a known shard holder.
Perhaps.
And I think the influence with the 17th shard might almost persuade against that. I don't know.
See, what I think after reading this is when they find a new world to inhabit, to place investiture on, I feel like this shard splinters itself, makes a splinter of itself to run that world. And that's why it's we. Instead of just being one whole unit, it's a collective under one banner of investiture.
Then how could the one that you have spoken to cannot respond?
Maybe that one is different. Like, they're not all created equal. Their vessels might be different. Like, as they said here, a new vessel is appearing. Like, they're bringing it up on the new world that they just found.
New vessel? No, what it says is new avatar of our being. And that might be something we have never seen before.
No, but that's why I think it could be purposely splintered by itself shard. It weakens it. I
think your theory does hold water, which is appropriate because of all the water references.
But the only thing that I don't like about this is on the Coppermind, this letter is speculated to be from Autonomy, but separating yourself into different units and across different worlds does not scream autonomy to me.
Also, it keeps saying we.
Yeah, like maybe this is like after they're splintered, they all act as a collective entity. Like we all decide this. This is our domains. You cannot enter here.
So I think we're jumping right into the speculation for who it's from. It says on the Coppermind that it is speculated to be Autonomy. A lot of that is based on the idea that they really are against interference in their thing. They reference that a few times. So that's a pretty solid leg to stand on. We don't really understand everything about Autonomy, so it's plausible.
But a point for the splintered autonomy theory is the magic system on Bavadin. On Taldane, my bad. Bavadin's the holder.
Hey, wow, it's almost like you should have made a chart like me.
It's okay. You don't matter. That is an issue, though, because we already know who the holder of autonomy is. His name is Bavadin.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's splintered, but I don't know. If you look at White Sand, if you've read the whole book, or even, well, I feel like you get a better idea of if you've read the whole book, the magic system there isn't all that powerful. It's more of connection to the sand. It's the microorganisms in the sand releasing investiture from the sun.
Time out. That is half of the magic system, but it is the more prevalent half.
Yeah, I mean, there's another one on the other side, on dark side.
Yeah.
But it's weaker. It's not as bombastic as other magic systems. Like, even breath. Mm-hmm. Breath is very bombastic when you have a lot of it.
Yeah.
Allomancy can be... Allomancy on its own, like, even just steel push or pewter.
Allomancy is fantastically powerful.
Yeah, and then surges on Roshar. Wherever there is a shard investing actively in a magic system, the powers are pretty powerful. But White Sands... Oh wow, I can control up to 7 strings of sand at a time with my mind!
Yeah. I mean, there are more than that. Every once in a while you'll have someone who's controlling like 20 or 30. Those are the really cool guy mastrels, but you're right, it's not as powerful as something like, manipulating gravity anytime you want.
And that's why I think that this might be a splintering of a shard, making something like a Stormfather but with another being, a micro vessel.
I get what you're saying, but maybe that's a solid point. Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying. Maybe it's more like autonomy is just reserving the power for itself so that it can ensure that the planet remains autonomous. Not investing too heavily in the people so that if Odium ends up coming around, that he gets smacked down.
He did pick a very weird place to set up, though.
Yeah.
Like, trapped in a binary star system.
Which is pretty awesome, in my opinion.
All right, yeah,
better
we're
to
good.
Blow on a microphone than...
Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right, you would know better than me. Okay, so one thing that I do want to mention is it says we, but it really could be any group of people in the known Cosmere and then some.
Mm-hmm.
It could be someone we have never heard of.
That's right.
But it could easily be Silverlight, the Irie,
Sleepless.
The Sleepless even, because it could be one of them, and technically
they do speak
in
first person, though. Like, they say, I have done this, and I think
true.
So. Yeah, so it might not be a Sleepless.
I guess that's probably more about thinking of themselves as one organism.
Yeah.
So. It really could be anything at all. And then some. But I was saying that it might be more than one planet, and I'll have to hear your opinion on this, Jason, and anyone who listens to this. It seems to me like Obradai might be a distinct location from these waters, because in the letter it says, we also instruct that you should not return to Obradai. We have claimed that world, and a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there. She is young yet, and as a precaution she has been instilled with an intense and overpowering dislike of you. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. So maybe that's on Obradai, but maybe it isn't.
It could very well not be on Obradai. I'm not entirely sure, but at least we know of the name of a new world.
We
do.
Yeah, so yeah, and I think this letter is especially influential because it says our many realms. So, I mean, it's just as possible that it's Obradai as that it isn't, in my mind. So that's an interesting point. The last thing that's really fascinating about this letter is, to me, I'd love to hear what you think, Jason, but it says about halfway through the second paragraph, we have claimed that world, Obradai, and a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there. Avatar of our being might be a way to say, like, some sort of I don't know. It seems like it might not be referring to a form of investiture or life that we've seen. Well, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that second letter? What's the most interesting part to you? Is it that same sentence?
I think it's all the we's, not necessarily one person, and Obadiah itself. I think that's it, very interesting, and I also think that we're definitely going to get a book following this person with a instilled dislike of Hoyd, eventually.
Oh boy.
Follow them.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily following them specifically, but like not centered around them.
I think it will be centered around them, or at least there'll be a main character.
So let it be written in the compendium of
predictions.
And we'll forget about it if it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
To soothe your pride.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, last letter.
Okay.
This is probably my favorite, just because it's CZ, and I like CZ.
We are about as certain
as
that
you
this
can
one,
be.
is CZ.
Friend, your letter is most intriguing, even revelatory. I would have thought, before attaining my current station, that a deity could not be surprised. Obviously, that is not true. I can be surprised. I can perhaps even be naive, I think. I am the least equipped of all to aid you in this endeavor. I am finding that the power I hold are in such conflict that the most simple of actions can be difficult. I am also made uncertain by your subterfuge. Why have you not made yourself known to me before this? How is it that you can hide? Who are you truly? How do you know so much about Adonalsium? If you would speak to me further, I request open honesty. Return to my lands, approach my servants, and I will see what I can do for your quest. So CZ he's open to this, because he's new. He doesn't know all the stakes here, but he's open to helping Hoyd, which is really interesting to me.
It also betrays that there's not much contact between him and the other shards.
Yeah, like hardly at all, because of their policy of, hey, don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Also, he actually invites Hoyd to return, which
is
hadn't realized.
Oh boy, to reference Oathbringer, it's like when Shallan hugs Wit, and Adeline is so taken aback, like, you wouldn't hug a snake. Like, he actually invites Wit over? What?
He's like, yeah, come to my lands, approach my servants, my peeps, and we'll see what we can do. Kandra,
is what that sounds like to
probably.
me.
Ooh, that would be... Oh, are we gonna get, like, Kandra agents on other worlds?
Shoot day.
Dude!
I bet we are.
Oh!
Add that to the compendium as well. That is a good one.
Oh.
I'm with you on that. I think maybe we've already seen Kandra.
I was about to say, we might have already seen him.
Yeah. I mean, agents of harmony that can disguise themselves just by
eating a
people,
corpse, yeah.
And who like to. I mean, that's pretty fascinating.
You see, people from Rochelle have a weird, like, earthy creme taste to them. They're not quite my favorite. They've also got a lot of big bones, which is really rough. Especially those
let it age a little better.
Those horn eaters, you know? People from Nalthis, very sweet. They make everything more vibrant. They've got a very explosive color palette.
Oh my gosh. We are not about to discuss the tastes of the different races of people.
Now, Cell.
Overall,
Cell's
Cell's
pretty
out
diverse.
Of the cannibalism.
Cell's pretty diverse, but I'd have to say they kind of got a musty, kind of aged taste, kind of like a good aged cheese. I'd say. Haven't had anyone from First to Sun, but those birds, man, taste just like chicken.
Speaking of cheesy.
But anyway, I think we're gonna get Kandra on Otherworld.
If we haven't already,
it's
just not known.
All right, but yeah.
I mean, I'm reminded of the Well of Ascension it is, where we find out that the Kandra agent was the Kandra agent the whole time.
Yeah.
That was pretty fascinating. But, yeah.
CZ might be making a mistake here, because he doesn't know enough.
Probably.
He's got all that power, no ambition to do anything, or can't because of its intent, and doesn't know enough about the situation elsewhere.
I have a major point to bring up in juxtaposition between this, the fifth letter, and the third letter, the first and the third Oathbringer letters.
Mm-hmm.
He says, how is it you can hide? Who are you truly, and how do you know so much about Adonalsium? That how is it you can hide is especially important to me, because in the first letter, Endowment, presumably, is over there saying, you think yourself so clever, but my eyes are not those of some petty noble, to be clouded by a false nose and some dirt on the cheeks. So she obviously sees through it like nothing.
She knows what to look for.
That's possible.
Because she knows...
Or maybe
she knows him as Sephandrius. They've known each other for a while. And it's dearest Sephandrius. It's not even my friend or just something dry like Sephandrius Bear of the First. It might be, but it might not be.
Dearest Sephandrius, I received your communication, of course.
Or maybe it could be, Dear Sephandrius, I've received your communication, of course. I noticed its arrival immediately. Just as I noticed your
She threatens
many
him at the end of the
intrusions.
letter.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's sarcasm.
But who knows, man? It could be either way.
Put me in the...
In sarcasm camp. Yeah, that's probably
in
it.
Sarcasm camp.
All right.
So,
anything else you want to talk about, or should we just wrap it up?
this is a general overview of what the letters are and what they explicitly say in their more major parts. I think it's fascinating when you look at the letters and their relationship to the greater Cosmere, because I think you see a lot more there. Like, maybe some of the why would they be writing, I don't know, just the what do they expect, what does Hoyt expect them to be able to do. Questions like that I think could take us further, but as far as the letters themselves, to me this seems like a pretty good succinct overview of what they say and why it's interesting. So
I have to agree.
I think with that we can close. I'll turn the mic over to you.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you everyone for listening and watching this video. As always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more sick Cosmere content. Also, be sure to comment down below what you thought of this discussion and anything you have taken away from these letters. Community is very important, and sometimes the 17th Shard forums themselves are not the most habitable or welcoming place. So just go ahead and leave a comment down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic time of day. Bye.